So I heard y'all like peanuts.
You want to get peanuts? Come on! Let's get peanuts.
The peanuts. They sure do exist everywhere, in every medium, from comics to parade floats to this gaming YouTube channel to advertisements for the Ford Falcon featuring Charlie Brown handing out cigars.
Thank you, Charlie Brown. What's the occasion? Has Charlie Brown had another baby sister? No. Ford has new economy twins.
I'll never get people being upset about Snoopy being the MetLife mascot. Peanuts have been selling out since the 50s. These car commercials are surreal, by the way. It's so bizarre to see Linus selling this realistic car.
It must be pretty embarrassing for the other compact cars to realize how they missed the boat.
My point is, if you've lived long enough, you've probably seen the Peanuts, or at least some tangential media. I've talked about the Peanuts TV specials before, probably more than I should, but I've never talked about the theatrical films. The scale of this was actually kind of daunting. They made 5 of these things, and let me tell you, 5 movies is a lot more than you might think. But I figured this would be a good finale for my Peanuts trilogy, talking about Peanuts animation in order of prominence, from the forgotten specials to the holiday specials to the wide releases, or at least what were supposed to be the widest releases. Because while some of these did well, most of them did not. Watching all the Peanuts TV specials makes you realize that most of them are erratic, unreliable, or downright sloppy. Except for you, folding chair creature, you're great, but that was just primetime TV. This is the time-honored medium of cinema. But are these better than the specials? Well, I can definitely say they put more work into them than the specials. Well, most of them. I figured I'd rank these from my least favorite to my most favorite because I cannot be the arbiter of what is the worst or best Peanuts movie due to an enormous conflict of interest called Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. Alright, you guys know the drill by now. Parental advisory, put your headphones in, don't watch this in public. Parents, don't let your kids watch this. In fact, don't let your kids watch YouTube. Make them read a fucking book. Anyway, let's get started with number 5.
Disappointment in the game of life.
Bon voyage, Charlie Brown, and don't come back. This is the last Peanuts movie Bill Melendez made, and yeah, after watching it, that was the right decision. This is really just a travelogue of the production crew going through Europe, and it really is Peanuts at its worst. It's meandering, it's unfocused, it spends way too long watching Snoopy dicking around, and worst of all, Schroeder's barely in it.
Take care of the old ball field, Schroeder.
The plot is, Charlie Brown, Linus, Peppermint Patty, and Marcy are selected to represent their schools in some kind of involuntary bilateral exchange program. I say involuntary because it seems like Charlie Brown has no idea this was happening. Linus just announces this to him in front of the class.
What's he talking about? Who's going to France?
He also receives a letter from France that he can't read because it's in some incomprehensible dead language.
It's written in some strange language.
He also says Snoopy can come with him because at this point, this is the fucking Snoopy show and everyone knows it. So they go to an airport and everyone sees them off. And for the first time, they're not traveling with those white hats. I really wish they'd spent more time at the airport. I think there were a lot more hijinks to be had here. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I think this movie is also the one that gives up on having adults be incomprehensible trombones.
Proceed to the VIP lounge, sir.
They arrive in London for some reason. I guess Schultz thought Americans were only allowed to enter France through Normandy. Or maybe they just wanted to show Snoopy dicking around at Wimbledon. And I have 2 minds about this, because they're showing adults, but at least they're still incomprehensible.
Bit odd, mate. I feel proper Charlie not understanding, but can you say it slow? Once more?
At this point, we are a full third of the way through the movie where they go to France, and they still haven't gone to France. Charlie Brown doesn't even know where they're going. I'm sorry, is that a fucking hovercraft? I just have to say, this is the coolest fucking way to travel. Arriving in France, they're somehow able to rent a car and Snoopy drives them to their respective hosts. If they didn't have this dog with them, how are they supposed to get there?
Are you Peppermint Patty and Mercy?
They really should have a trigger warning before they show French people. Peppermint Patty and Marcy are staying with a boy named Pierre, who Marcy falls in love with, while Peppermint Patty just kind of third wheels. Meanwhile, Charlie Brown and Linus are staying at the Chateau de Malvoisin, literally just the house of the bad neighbor. They didn't make that up, by the way. That's literally what the real house is called. So for those of you that don't know, Charles Schultz, like millions of Americans, fought in World War II, and when he was overseas, he was quartered at this house, literally called the House of the Bad Neighbor. But instead of Allied soldiers, the house is currently inhabited by a wicked baron and his niece, Violette.
You are not to invite those boys in.
I will just take food to the boys.
I told you, I didn't want any visitors.
And all I can say is, the age of aristocracy is over. Vive la Revolution! Vive la France! But instead of guillotining the Baron, which is both their right and duty, Charlie Brown and Linus sleep in the barn. Charlie Brown tasks Snoopy to keep watch, but he immediately goes AWOL and heads to the bar. Violette brings them food and blankets so they don't die. The kids go to school, we see another adult. Again, I'm triggered, I'm owned, but I think it's a missed opportunity where they could have had the French adults sound like French horns instead of trombones. This goes on for about a week by my estimate. They go to school, Snoopy goes drinking at the bar every night, but one night the Baron comes in and goes off on a drunken rant about how he hates everyone and is going to murder children because they exist too close to him.
I'm going to have to get rid of them in my way. Swear, something drastic has to be done.
Most hospitable Frenchman. Snoopy hears this, and you might think he's going to go save Charlie Brown and Linus, but these root beers aren't going to drink themselves. Linus eventually figures out something fucky is going on and breaks into the house and corners Violette in the attic, where he demands to know why she invited them to stay with her if they didn't want them there. Violette and Linus conclude that the decadent aristocracy must be destroyed and light the chateau on fire. Charlie Brown then spends the next 3 minutes of the movie running around town screaming the exact same lines.
Fire! Fire! Help! Fire!
Okay, yeah, I get it.
Fire! Fire!
I get it. Stop.
The chateau is on fire!
Alright, I get it. Eventually, the fire department stops striking long enough to put the fire out, and Linus saves Violette with his blanket. Apparently, Charlie Brown's grandfather, Silas Brown, was stationed at the castle during World War II, where he met Violette's grandmother. Silas went home when Violette's grandma got married.
But she never forgot the charming American.
Yeah, Charlie Brown's grandpa laid some massive pipe for Violette's grandma. Actually, there's a little bit of family resemblance there too. They don't directly say it, but this is the only thing that makes sense. But here's the thing. Violette sent the letter completely irrespective of Charlie Brown being enlisted into the exchange program. I think this is just a massive coincidence. Overall, I have to say this is the only Peanuts movie I actively dislike. I railed against 4-panel plots in the previous videos, but this one really is 4-panel plots the movie. Nothing in it has anything to do with anything else. There's so many asides from the main plot, which I think is supposed to be the events at the house of the bad neighbor, but that entire plot genuinely only took up maybe 15 minutes of screen time. Most of this is just the writers asking, okay, but what bits can we do? Here's Snoopy at Wimbledon. Here's Charlie Brown and Peppermint Patty in class together. Here's Snoopy pretending to violate the Uniform Code of Conduct. Charlie Brown also has basically no agency in this. He's constantly wondering who invited him only to leave him out in the cold, and it's Linus that finally sacks up and breaks into the house to figure it out. I mean, sure, he calls the fire department at the end, but I'm not going to give him credit for not letting his friends burn alive. Heck, I would have respected him more if he had let Linus burn to death. He doesn't seem to know where he is or what he's doing at any point in the movie. He didn't even know he was going abroad in the first place.
Who's going to France?
Oh, also, while they're leaving, Peppermint Patty says,
Too bad I can't give the kid a tumble.
"What the fuck? Who thought that was a good line? And who put it in there twice?"
Too bad Pete has fallen for me. I couldn't give the kid a tumble, though.
Take care of the old balls, Schroeder.
A boy named Charlie Brown. This is the first Peanuts movie ever made, back in 1969, and it shows it. Also, it's a musical. This is pretty much the Peanuts plot, where Charlie Brown learns to cope with failure. As the film begins, Charlie Brown is busy sucking at life, except now he does it to a dope soundtrack.
He's only a boy named Charlie. A boy named Charlie Brown.
He tries to fly a kite and gets curb stomped. He finds his pitcher's mound covered with dandelions, but the girls won't let him cut them down because they're too pretty. I sure hope they don't stretch this one joke out into an entire special. It's the first baseball game of the season, and Charlie Brown is somehow optimistic about his team's chances. But don't worry, I'm sure you wanted to watch Snoopy setting up his fucking PA system for 2 full minutes of screen time. This is the first thing you gotta know about this movie. It has maybe 10 scenes, but it drags everything out mercilessly, and that's the only reason it manages to be feature length. So now we all have to stand for the national anthem, played in its entirety. This is almost at the level of parody. Then it's time to do some bits from the comics. This is before they had exhausted all the good ones, I guess, because these genuinely are quite funny.
It's probably not serious. Second or third aid will do.
Charlie Brown's baseball team gets absolutely clowned on in their first game of the season. Just like annihilated. This league clearly does not have a mercy rule. But poor league management aside, I really like this scene. I think the montage is really dynamic. I like the music. You really get a sense of just how bad this team sucks. They do a really good job emphasizing just how much of a loser Charlie Brown is. I like the scene of Linus idly winning tic-tac-toe. Lucy apparently has developed a Charlie Brown themed PowerPoint presentation.
I put all of your faults on slides.
She calls him fat.
These slides will show your tendency toward fatness. Look at that stomach. Even your nose is fat. I'll bet if the truth were known, even your toes are fat.
She also apparently spends a lot of time thinking about Charlie Brown's feet. So once again, now that we are a full third of the way into the movie, it's time for the inciting incident. Charlie Brown is lamenting to Linus he doesn't win anything, to which Lucy suggests he enter the class spelling bee as a joke. Linus is like, yep, sounds good, and then Lucy, Violet, and Patty hit Charlie Brown with the most brutal roast I've ever seen. Holy shit.
You never do anything right. You never put anything in its place. No wonder everyone calls you failure face. And in the race to be stupid, you set a brand new kind of pace. We'd like to christen you Charlie Failure Face.
Like, if somebody did this to me, I would just fucking die. There's no way I could ever recover from this. But Charlie Brown steals himself and manages to pull all the easiest words in the class spelling bee.
Failure? Yes, ma'am. That's an easy one.
Boy, that's one word he should know well.
Now he's going to represent their class in the school spelling bee, so he goes home with Linus to bone down. And they sing a song that is actually terrible, but also taught me more about spelling and grammar than my actual school.
When a word ends in C, like frolicking, picnic, and mimic, insert a K before adding a suffix.
Like, I didn't know any of this shit. And it turns out it was all Charlie Brown needed, because when he hears Snoopy playing his Jewish harp, he suddenly remembers the most basic rule of English grammar. And then we get hit with the most powerful high in cinema.
Champion Charlie Brown, that has a lovely ring. Something to make a four-column headline, something the kids can sing. Champion Charlie Brown, Esquire, setting the whole wide world on fire. Fly all the flags, break out the confetti, cause all the bells to sound. He's gonna be most definitely Champion Charlie Brown.
I'm not gonna lie, Champion Charlie Brown goes pretty hard. This and Failure Face are honestly two of the best songs Peanuts ever produced. Better than any of the Broadway musicals, better than Snoopy Come Home, they're just perfect. So then Vince, why did you make me listen to the entire Star Spangled Banner? Now that Charlie Brown has won the respect of his peers by being a fucking nerd, he's ready to rest on his laurels.
It's over. I won, and I won't ever have to go through such an ordeal again.
Why, you blockhead? This is just the beginning.
Of course, Charlie Brown. This is only the beginning.
Sure, Charlie Brown. This is only the beginning.
We're 45 minutes in. How is this the beginning of anything? So he gets sent to New York City to compete in the National Spelling Bee, and he's wearing the white hat. Linus also gives him his blanket as a sign of respect. This turns out to be a critical mistake because Linus immediately starts suffering from withdrawal. So he presses Snoopy into taking him to New York to find his blanket. Also, Schroeder wastes 5 minutes of my life. Why is this here? What does this have to do with anything? Snoopy and Linus arrive at Charlie Brown's hotel, and Snoopy and Charlie Brown are genuinely excited to see each other. However, Linus is fucking dying. And I say let him. Charlie Brown lost Linus's blanket somewhere, so Linus starts wandering the streets of New York, absolutely strung out of his mind. Then Snoopy wastes another 5 minutes of my life. I get this is supposed to be cinematic, but it's 1969. This isn't early enough in the history of animation for me to be impressed. I don't give a shit about this. Let me see the spelling bee. Charlie Brown makes it to the final round, but then...
B-E-A-G-E-L. Beagle.
Wait, that's it? I've seen the National Spelling Bee. Now the other kid has to spell that shit. And they always get it wrong because if you hit the 50-word limit with another competitor, they just give you both full grand prizes. Either the rules are fucking wrong or that kid's just an asshole. Anyway, they leave. Charlie Brown's parents don't even pick him up at the bus station, and he sinks into a deep clinical depression. But now that Linus has his blanket back, he's able to pull himself together long enough to tell Charlie Brown, Charlie Brown, have you considered not giving a fuck? The end. Unlike most Peanuts media, this one actually focuses a lot on Charlie Brown. Snoopy doesn't even get full billing. He just gets a featuring credit because this is before he became the main character. There's some weird editing decisions and some sequences overstay their welcome by like a lot. And I think this is the least pretty Peanuts movie in terms of animation. Like, you can tell they were just starting to give more attention to the backgrounds and setting. I can tell they tried to take advantage of setting the movie in New York. I just think they tried in the wrong way. Even Fantasia would try to tell a story visually. This is just Snoopy dicking around. Some things also just kind of look bad. If any movie would benefit from a remaster, it's this one. Overall, I like it, but something's got to be at number 4, so here it is. I actually think this one is very good direction. I really like the way they frame and transition some scenes. I think this is the style they should have iterated on. It really emphasizes the comic feel of it in a way that sets it apart from other animation of the era. Just a little bit less of Snoopy dicking around, and I'd like this a lot more.
I'll depend on you, you'll depend on me, speaking psychologically.
3. Snoopy Come Home. Snoopy Come Home, also known as Snoopy Dicking Around the Movie, is the ultimate in Snoopy dicking around. And you know what? It works. If you're gonna make a movie about Snoopy dicking around, at least put his name in the title. When I think of Peanuts movies, this is the one I think of. I had this on VHS growing up, and any millennial watching knows what that meant. I watched this movie so much I completely dissociated, and all meaning broke down until all I perceived of it was sound and color. So while I was intimately familiar with this movie, I also wasn't sure how I would feel about it as an adult. And I have to say, it's fantastic. It's well animated, it has good music, and it actually tells a pretty good story for most of it. Right out of the credits, you get a pretty solid feel of the movie. This is a little subtle, but see if you can tell what it's about. You get a pretty clear understanding of Snoopy and his relationship with the rest of the kids. Like, Snoopy's first interaction with Charlie Brown is just kicking the shit out of him. But then Schroeder comes in and puts him in his place because, as I've said before, Schroeder is the most base Peanuts character. Except for one. Someone who wasn't in the last movie. I am, of course, talking about Franklin. But a good third place is Woodstock, who makes his debut in this film. This is a musical film, according to Wikipedia. They brought in the Sherman Brothers, and boy does it show. This movie feels much more orchestral. In a way, the music lends itself to a more epic style of movie. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I really like the music they did for this. The theme song is a banger, Lila's theme is great, It Changes hits way too fucking hard. Linus immediately starts the movie being a fucking asshole.
Nice going, Charlie Brown. It took that rock 4,000 years to get to shore, and now you've thrown it back.
Fuck off, Linus. Just let the guy throw a rock.
Everything I do makes me feel guilty.
Do you want to try that take again, Chief? Yeah, Charlie Brown's voice actor in this one is, unique. It's not Peter Robbins anymore. Now it's a guy named Chad. So I guess you could say this is the return of Chad Charlie Brown in the loosest possible sense. Snoopy is at the beach, just chilling, meeting women, you know, the life. And I guess Peppermint Patty thinks he's just a weird looking kid. I know she normally does, but there's a point later in this movie where she directly refers to Snoopy as being Charlie Brown's dog. So I don't know what level she's on right now. She's like, okay, Snoopy, meet me back here tomorrow and we'll have a picnic and no under the clothes stuff. Meanwhile, Charlie Brown is just hanging out with his best friends.
Oh no, not on Pacific! With hotels? Pay me $1,275, please.
Schroeder continues to be based.
Schroeder, how about a beep on the nose?
I'd rather have the $1,275, please.
If there's anything weak about this movie, it's Charlie Brown's voice actor.
I wonder where that dog is. There he is.
There's just no inflection here. It's like the teacher picked him to read out loud in class. He just starts going off on Snoopy.
You've been acting awfully independent lately. Don't forget that I'm the one who feeds you. I'm the one who takes care of you.
I don't know why Charlie Brown is picking this fight. Like, if your dog is getting away from you, put him on a leash. Snoopy goes back to the beach the next day, but one of the lifeguards saw what he was getting up to and decided to put a stop to it. The real question, if she hadn't been stood up, would Peppermint Patty have given Snoopy a tumble?
I couldn't give the kid a tumble, though.
I think that this is a really strong way to set up the conflict, and for once, the inciting incident is less than 10 minutes in. Like, they did it. They set up the conflict before the half-hour mark. They took a script writing basics course since the last movie. Charlie Brown takes Sally and Snoopy to a library later.
I hate reading. I just want to be a good housewife. Shh.
The same thing happens.
No dogs allowed.
They actually used the first act to reinforce the theme of Snoopy not being wanted. I swear, I thought Snoopy was gonna kick Linus in the balls here. Then we cut to a random hospital where a little girl named Lila is sitting alone, quietly sighing to herself. She's like, I know what I'll do. I'll write a letter to a fucking dog I knew once and ask him to visit me. You don't want to write a letter to your human friends? Or your cat? Or your parents? Also, how the fuck did you get Snoopy's forwarding address? Snoopy gets the letter, and he's instantly like, Woodstock, we've gotten the call to adventure. Snoopy and Woodstock try taking the bus, but they can't because of discrimination.
No dogs allowed.
So now this becomes a multi-day trek to the local hospital. And this is where we get the first rendition of The Best of Buddies.
In our close united status, who could ever separate us? And what's more, we're in rapport. We're the best of buddies, me and you.
This is the gayest song I've ever heard.
Harmony is where it's at, and where it's at for you is where it's at for me. Share and share alike is what it's all about, and what it's all about is unanimity.
Why is the joke that Marcy and Peppermint Patty are gay? Why do people not clock Snoopy and Woodstock's relationship? Woodstock literally gets mad at him for not sleeping in the same bed. Back at Charlie Brown's house, everyone is just kind of hanging out listening to Charlie Brown bitch about his dog. Yeah, cool, bro, whatever.
I never thought of myself as being a dog owner. Snoopy was more like a friend.
Friends get bored too, Charlie Brown.
Fuck off, Linus. On his way down the block, Snoopy gets abducted by a little girl.
Hey, Ma! I found a stray dog.
When I was a kid, I remember this girl being the fucking Joker.
You got your dress dirty. I'll have to spank you.
Like, this was the worst villain in any media I had ever seen. Also, Snoopy has a collar. I don't know how you get away with this. He should have gotten in a fight with Charlie Brown after getting the letter from Lila, then takes off his collar and hands it to him, and that's why the girl can take him. It's nice because it's a consequence for an action he took. You know, script writing 101. Snoopy can dial a phone, he can take off his collar, but he can't untie a rope. Eventually he breaks out, wrecks up her house, does some Scooby-Doo shit, then drops a fishbowl on her head and leaves. The last we see of that girl, Snoopy suctions a full bowl of water to her head. We don't see her get it off, off, and she's never on screen again. She is 100% dead. Eventually they get to the hospital, and after some shenanigans make their way up to Lila's room. To get Charlie Brown's mind off Snoopy, Peppermint Patty takes him to the carnival, where she spends the night tormenting him.
We're having a good time, aren't we, Chuck?
And this just looks really good. It's really well animated. They have some impressive color and shadow work. Adult clown Carney.
Does your kind ever think about love, Chuck? What do you mean, my kind?
Yeah, what the fuck do you mean? Linus comes in to shed some light on the situation. Lila was Snoopy's original owner, but she had to return him to the puppy farm because they didn't allow dogs in their apartment.
You got a used dog, Charlie Brown.
Fuck you, Linus. Back at the hospital, Woodstock is cheating at chess. Lila asks Snoopy to leave Charlie Brown and come live with her. Why did she ask this? The situation hasn't changed. They're still living in the same apartment. Why could Snoopy live with her now? As an emotional support animal? Snoopy and Woodstock go home, and Snoopy announces he's leaving Charlie Brown for Lila, so they have a party for him. Why do they have a lectern built into this table? Snoopy really doesn't want to leave Charlie Brown, but I guess he feels it's his responsibility to go live with Lila. When has Snoopy ever given a shit about responsibility? When has he ever given a shit about Charlie Brown for that matter? Before he goes, he also gives away his stuff to the neighborhood kids. Except Charlie Brown, who gets jack shit. Snoopy heads over to Lila's. It must be a lot closer than the hospital because he basically just walks down the block. Everyone is depressed, but fortunately for everyone, we get some more discrimination. Snoopy heads back, leaving Lila brokenhearted. But forget about that shit because now Snoopy and Woodstock are back together. I promise you there's nothing to read into here. The other kids are also extremely happy until he wants his stuff back.
To Linus Van Pelt, I expect my croquet set and chess set returned forthwith.
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable request. He could have phrased it a little better, but if he doesn't move, I feel like I don't get to keep his stuff.
Mine says that since he gave me nothing, I owe him nothing.
This is the movie that defines the Charlie Brown-Snoopy relationship for me. Snoopy might not respect Charlie Brown, but if he was dying in a hospital, he'd probably go see him. Oh wait, there was that one time he was dying in a hospital and Snoopy didn't give two shits. There are a lot of moments when Snoopy and Charlie Brown do have a nice relationship, but most of the time their relationship is literally a joke. But that's just kind of a consequence of Snoopy driving the comedy. He's not really Charlie Brown's dog, he's more Charlie Brown's friend, who happens to be in the shape of a dog. The Peanuts movie is definitely an outlier in this list. I almost feel bad even including because it's so different from the rest of them. Not just because of the animation, not just because of the time it was made, not just because it has a cohesive story, but because unlike the other movies, this one made money. Right off the bat, we have to talk about the animation. This is a Blue Sky movie. You guys know Blue Sky, right? C-tier Disney. Think Ice Age, Robots, Ice Age 2, Ice Age 3, Ice Age 4, the fucking parrot movie.
It seems today that all you see is violence and movies and sex on TV.
But if you know, then you know that traditional 2D animation is a bit outside their wheelhouse. So the Peanuts movie is rendered in 3D, but presented very flat. And I was skeptical about this initially, but it works really well for about 98% of the movie. There are only really two exceptions. I think the distant backgrounds are somewhat weak, but more importantly, what the fuck is going on with Charlie Brown's hair? Dude went to the barber and just said, "Yo fam, fuck my shit up." I know this is gonna be slightly controversial, but Charlie Brown is not bald. He doesn't have one unicorn hair sticking out of his fucking forehead. His hair is just really light blonde, to the point it's almost translucent. These are his bangs. This is his cowlick, and his hair extends around here. He's not Homer fucking Simpson. This works in 2D, but holy shit did they fuck this up in 3D. I can think of 1,000 other ways to do this, and they did it the worst way possible. This is one of those Peanuts greatest hits kind of joints, except unlike the 4-panel plot specials, this one actually, you know, has a story. It's not anything outstanding, but as I said before, the mere presence of a connecting story is enough to elevate any Peanuts media above the rest. It begins with a little red-haired girl moving across the street from Charlie Brown, and he's determined to make a good first impression. Wait, fuck, never mind. We also get an origin story for Snoopy's typewriter. He found it in the dumpster. What year is this supposed to be? Snoopy then takes it upon himself to write the movie's B-plot, and the story he chooses is about a World War I pilot desperately trying to get laid. But I guess the Germans sees her as spoils of war or something. She doesn't really seem that broken up about it. I miss when Snoopy's fantasies are about the horrors of war, not how cool dogfighting is. Also, I recognize they're trying to create a faithful adaptation, but is Snoopy supposed to be imagining himself flying his literal doghouse? Shouldn't this be a Sopwith camel? This is where the movie really loses me. I just don't care. I don't care if he rescues his imaginary girlfriend from his imaginary archenemy. I do like the part where it cuts between fantasy and reality. I think there was a way to do this where Snoopy makes fun of Charlie Brown for falling in love with Heather, but then immediately sees Fifi as her dog or something and falls in love too. But no, she's just his original character, Do Not Steal. Woodstock hates her too, probably for trying to come between him and his best buddy. Nothing to read into with this. I get that this is a modern movie and company executives will literally massacre the entire animation department if they don't get at least 3 action scenes, but this is all just in service of nothing. It doesn't even look that good. Yeah, Snoopy is a fighter pilot in the French lowlands, sure. Why the fuck is this airstrip facing a mountain on one side and a bridge on the other? Was it a practical joke on the pilots? Or was this just so we don't notice the shitty draw distance? Anyway, that's the completely unrelated B-plot. Meanwhile, the A-plot is still playing the hits.
This is the face of failure.
failure. A classic failure face.
Lucy tells him that he needs to show the little red-haired girl that he's a winner if he wants to impress her, so he decides to win the school talent show with his magic act. Because when I think of success, I think amateur magician. If they're gonna play the hits, so will I. At the talent show, Sally is getting absolutely shat on by the audience for her terrible talent.
Hey, that's not a real horse.
Franklin's about to give her the hook, but Charlie Brown decides to cancel his show to help her. What insanely strict schedule does Franklin have them on that he gives them this ultimatum? Like, I'm gonna blame Franklin for this one. I'm not gonna down one base rank for this. We also see Snoopy and Sally interacting, I think for the first time in any of these movies. Like, they've been in the same scene before, but I think this is the first time they've actually interacted with each other. The only other time I can think of off the top of my head is Flash Beagle, when Fergie takes him to class to get down, or when Fergie sang for his wedding. Charlie Brown acts as her cow and gets horribly embarrassed.
Well, nobody reads the school paper anyhow.
Damn, dude, that's a fucking hit piece if I've ever seen one. Honestly, he takes this a lot better than I would have. What teacher looks at this and is like, yep, looks good, print it? I guess the article itself is complimentary, but I feel like this photo and headline are pretty insulting. So now Charlie Brown decides to impress her by learning how to dance. But surprise, surprise, he sucks. And now we're picking up the plot of the New Year's special, except instead of learning how to dance at the White Person Two-Step Institute, Snoopy actually helps him for once. And this is when we start hearing some modern music, which I think is just bizarre. I don't know if this was a studio mandate or something, but they should have just stuck with the jazz soundtrack. They're going to be playing more modern music, and it never doesn't feel weird. For the actual dance, they play the Linus and Lucy theme. Anyway, Charlie Brown blows that one too, but then he gets partnered with her for a school book report.
The little red-haired girl. My lucky day.
Okay, first of all, partnered book reports. Second, she's not even in school. If I was their teacher, I would have taken her name out. Only a hack like Miss Othmar would assign work to a student who isn't even there. It turns out Charlie Brown also got a perfect score on a standardized test. Okay, so we're in the No Child Left Behind era, but we're also at the end of the typewriter era. They've taken the annual standardized test before.
Not the yearly standardized test again.
Which means this movie likely takes place between the winter of 2002 and the summer of 2003. Jeez, no wonder Charlie Brown is depressed. 9/11 just happened, Bush started the Iraq War between scenes. I don't blame this kid for being bummed about everything. He decides to do his book report about uncovering the hidden meaning behind War and Peace. Russia is snowy and cold.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Russia sucks. Charlie Brown manages to finish the book report over the weekend, but before he can turn it in, they have a full school assembly to talk about his perfect test score, complete with balloon effigies and matching outfits. The school is just like, oh man, this kid's gonna get us so much federal funding next year. But it turns out the test is actually peppermint patties. Wait, doesn't she go to a different school? Also, how did this get 100? This thing has so many stray marks that should have been rejected by the Scantron. Normally, a book report you wrote in 2 days with no sleep would get about a C-, but apparently he wrote one of the most thought-provoking essays Linus has ever read. But before he can turn it in, bro, it was just 2 pages. I feel like you could rewrite that before class. Even if it's not 1-to-1, you could probably still get a C. What are you doing in Franklin's bath, bro?
Yeah, Chuck, your crazy dog is over here again.
Hold on, did she just call him a dog? Snoopy kills a kid here. I will accept no other explanations for this scene. The seasons change from winter to spring, the Iraq War probably starts too. Consequently, Snoopy is embraced as jingoistic fantasies and has nearly finished his novel. There's an epic final battle, Woodstock kills a guy, I'm pretty sure the Beagle Scouts die here. Like, take the cake out and this is horrifying. They're gonna be sending those boys home in Ziploc bags. But their sacrifice is worth it because Snoopy got laid, the end. But Charlie Brown is depressed since he thinks he'll never get laid. The school year is almost over, but when it comes time to select summer pen pals, the little red-haired girl picks Charlie Brown. Linus is once again sick of his shit, so Charlie Brown chases her down. Not really sure why this is something that couldn't have been a letter. She's about to get on the bus to summer camp. Statistically speaking, Charlie Brown should probably be going with her. Man, she's waiting by that bus door for a while. Charlie Brown comes up to her. Everyone he's ever met has followed him to watch this. If I was Heather, I'd be freaked the fuck out by this. I was just trying to catch the bus. But she levels with Charlie Brown and tells him why she likes him.
I like the compassion you showed for your sister at the talent show. The honesty you had at the assembly. And at the dance. You were brave. And funny.
And I'm of 2 minds about this. On one hand, it's cathartic to see Charlie Brown's good deeds rewarded by the story acknowledging that he is a fundamentally good person. That's the kind of thing we never got from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. But on the other hand, it's somewhat sad that this comes as external validation instead of Charlie Brown's actual character strength, his own persistence. If I was writing this, I would have had a scene just before this where Charlie Brown is at Lucy's therapy stand or something, and she's talking shit about him. Like, Charlie Brown, you never win anything. He's like, true, but I helped Sally win that talent show. I'm honest, I'm reliable, No, I work hard even if God hates me. Then he demands a refund and takes Lucy to small claims court. I think a truer finale to the series is to have Charlie Brown finally self-actualize, because in a way that's the final acknowledgement that he's growing up. Then you can have the scene with Heather, except now Charlie Brown approaches with confidence. And you could even do the Peanuts thing where he makes this long-winded speech and the bus drives away anyway. He's just like, whatever, I'll put it in my letter. I just think that would have been a more conclusive finale than have someone else tell Charlie Brown that he's pretty alright for the 15 millionth time. I really agonized over where I was going to put this one in the ranking actually. Being the only non-Melendez Films Peanuts production, it really isn't comparable to the others. It still uses Schultz's comic to craft a basic outline of the story, but where Schultz would typically end his strips with a punchline at Charlie Brown's expense, the Peanuts movie feels a lot cozier, I guess is the word I'd use for it. It takes itself a lot more seriously than the other movies do, and it really tries hard to be a film with a positive message. And for Peanuts, that's wrong. Like, that's not correct. Peanuts is about Charlie Brown's perpetual suffering. The first strip is just about how everyone hates him, and that's basically the joke Schultz told for 50 years. But here that's been removed. But I'm not saying that's an entirely bad thing. This was definitely the bridge between the cynicism of the Melendez animations and the highly sentimental Apple TV ones. I also think this movie unintentionally exposed Blue Sky Animation's biggest problem as a studio. Nobody, and I mean nobody working there, knew how to write a compelling script. I think Ice Age 1 and Robots are their strongest scripts, but even those pale in comparison to anything written by Brad Bird or Andrew Stanton, or even our old friend Jim Reardon, and I finally got his name right. So Disney, here's my pitch, if you can ever get the Schultz estate on board again. The Peanuts movie 2, writer-director Jim Reardon. Bring this thing full circle, I beg you.
So, what's the prevailing attitude, Charlie Brown?
So this one's going to be a bit controversial. I know there isn't going to be a single person alive who agrees with me on this, but it's my video, so you can't stop me.
Sir, you're making too much noise. Can't you just kiss him goodnight and let it go at that?
This is my favorite Peanuts movie. It's my favorite Peanuts anything. It's not the funniest movie or the most cohesive movie or the best looking movie. It's just the movie I fucking like the most. And I am of course talking about the classic masterpiece, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. This movie goes hard. Way harder than it has any right to. Starting with the theme song. That's right folks, we have a certified banger alert. Unlike a few of the TV specials, this movie is smart enough to just start right off with the kids on their way to camp, instead of some bullshit setup like that time Lucy signed them all up. I'm just trying to figure out where they're headed. They start at some farmland, then they go through this pine forest, now they're in Monument Valley. Where do these kids live? They get to camp, and Charlie Brown, being the shit-seeking missile he is, immediately runs into the camp bullies. The bullies just have like an R on their shirt. You just know these guys are bad news because they showed up in matching outfits.
What's your name, kid? Charlie Brown. Hey, get a load of this kid with a weird name.
What? It's Charlie Brown. What? So these guys will be our antagonists for the film, because even though this is a Peanuts movie, it's also every single camp movie ever made. And every cabin competes in a series of camp challenges for, I guess, bragging rights?
We're number one! We're number one!
Which is all the incentive these guys will need for, as we will see, attempted murder.
Here I want to be a good leader, and I see nothing but failure ahead. Don't fret, Charlie Brown. As they say, it's not if you win or lose, but how you play the game.
Go fuck yourself, Linus. I think these bullies are just too evil for a Peanuts movie. I would have expected the kids to at least do a little bit of escalation, but no, they do literally nothing to them the entire movie. Except Linus. Okay, never mind, I get it, guys. The bullies win all the challenges through really obvious cheating. Like, how does nobody see this? Even if you don't notice it during the race, anyone could call you out immediately after this and have you dead to rights. You're literally holding the bag. But the final challenge is also the only one that matters, and that is the fucking multi-day unsupervised river raft race.
I just checked out the raft. You can't believe it. Direction finders, radar, sonar, the works.
I know this is going to be another controversial opinion, but I feel like you shouldn't be allowed to use a fucking speedboat on a raft race. I guess the referee is giving them disability accommodation since they crash it at every opportunity. Yeah, it just wouldn't be summer camp without the raft race through an active blasting zone. If I was running this camp, I would have put the finish line way before this. I know the sign says to go the other way, but I wouldn't even take chances. For real, they almost die here. How does the camp not get shut down after this? Luckily for the kids, Snoopy is bulldozer certified. The universe sees this and is like, it's time to fuck these kids up. I can't believe anyone survived this. Holy shit. If you're running this camp, how much have you whiffed this race? Like, you started upriver of a fucking blasting zone. You didn't check the weather before. Half these kids are fucking marooned now. The other half are at the bottom of the fucking river. I don't care what kind of waiver you have these kids sign. There's no way you're getting out of this without getting sued. Snoopy and Woodstock have been separated. Snoopy is about to leave to finish the race, but then he stops. He goes back. He makes a choice to try to help his friend, even if it costs him the race. A character makes a decision, not for comedy, but out of compassion. I don't know how many times that's actually happened in one of these.
Hi, Chuck. What you doing on the beach? I think Snoopy and Woodstock are lost. rest.
The girls vote to help Charlie Brown look for Snoopy in Woodstock. Again, it's kind of weird to see a character address Woodstock by name.
These rocks are a perfect breeding ground for rock snakes. What in the world is a rock snake? When it sneaks up behind you and throws a rock at you, boy, they're not too dangerous though. Most of the time, they hit you on the lower part of your legs.
Go fuck yourself, Linus. Snoopy finds an old hunting cabin to sleep in and almost gets got by a bear for some reason. Meanwhile, Woodstock is out in the woods literally fighting for his life. I also want to flag up that I don't usually like Sally as a character, but I think she and Peppermint Patty actually work really well together.
Linus, where are you? And I really need you!
Relax, troops. We gotta get a hold of ourselves. It's only bears and tigers out there.
And this movie is one of the few times we actually get to see them interact. And best of all, Lucy sticks to the background where she fucking belongs. Woodstock is about to die of exhaustion, but the sound of his life partner gives him a second wind.
I think this would be a nice place to rest.
I think this creepy-ass haunted murder cabin would be a nice place to rest. Fuck off, Linus. The girls catch up with them at the cabin, everybody has a party, Franklin got Riz, Woodstock practices self-love, and I like this scene. I think it's nice. It's a good proportion of dicking around to actual plot, and I don't think this movie suffers for its tangents in the way the others do.
It sort of makes you think.
What's he talking about? I don't know. I wasn't really listening.
Oh, he was saying something about the fire.
The girls vote to kick the boys out of the cabin.
We found this cabin, and we were here first.
Look here, you saw the vote. It was done legal and straight. Do you believe in democracy?
Man, populism sucks. Why the fuck is it snowing? Wasn't this supposed to be a summer camp? How long have they been out here? At this point, it's been like 3 days without anyone actually doing any rafting. The girls start losing the thread.
We were saying, Chuck, that now would be a good time to get us a Christmas tree.
Christmas trees? Are you crazy? We're supposed to be having a race. Have you forgotten that?
Luckily, the bullies are there to refocus the plot. They fuck up their RAS and the kids almost drown trying to get them. At this point, I think the girls are actively trying to get the boys killed. The girls rescue the boys. Peppermint Patty appoints Charlie Brown to be the leader for some reason. No ballots on this one.
That's the way, Chuck. Yeah, get up there in front. That's it, Chuck. You're leading. Boy, what a leader. Lead on, Chuck.
The bullies brought a lot of signs with them.
Chuck, you're taking the wrong turn.
Charlie Brown is like, I want to get off Mr. Bones' wild ride. This river has got to be full of children's corpses. Everyone is just screaming at him now. But Charlie Brown has finally had enough of their shit.
Now, wait a minute. You've all made me the leader, and I'm gonna make the decisions.
He seizes control, suspends democratic institutions, and enacts forced labor. But then something crazy happens. They start winning. Seeing how authoritarianism is about to validate itself, Peppermint Patty stands up for democracy and overthrows Charlie Brown's harsh dictatorship. I'm pretty sure this movie is anti-women's suffrage. Remember when I was talking about the Peanuts movie and I said I wanted Charlie Brown to demonstrate growth by taking charge of his own actions? Well, in this one he actually does that. He pushes through all the bullshit and realizes his own agency and ability. It's an actual moment of growth, but it's still Peanuts, so he has to lose anyway. But it's also a generic camp movie, so the bullies can't win either. By the way, shout out to the bully who crashes the raft twice and still has the balls to sit in the driver's seat. So who wins? Woodstock wins by building his own raft, an ability we had already set up that he has. And that's the best ending anyone could possibly have written for this.
And to the winner of our annual river raft race, this trophy. Congratulations, champ.
Then Charlie Brown is delivering a long-winded speech.
And I feel good about myself for the first time in my life. I think now that dumb things won't happen to me anymore. I feel like I'm more in control. Hey! Don't forget me!
This is exactly what I wanted from the Peanuts movie. I love this movie. I know I'm wrong. Fuck off.
I never really ever listen to anything he says.
So that's the Peanuts cinematic universe. Was it good? Was it successful? Not really, but it was something to watch. But is there any deeper meaning to take away from these movies? No, not really. But speaking of pointless media viewing, this channel now has 100,000 subscribers. Hooray! I've always wanted to embrace my inner hack YouTuber and do a Q&A video. You guys have no idea the strength of will it takes to resist doing a Q&A for literally every YouTube milestone. It takes a certain level of egoism to be able to even do this in the first first place, and literally any validation we get just triggers some innate instinct to hold a press conference. I once saw a channel have a Q&A for 3 subscribers, but fuck it, I've been grinding at this for over 6 years. This is actually the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm taking the victory lap. Also, I figured this would be a good way to pad out the watch time on this video, and I also thought it would be good to finish up the Peanut series by answering any questions you guys might have had about it. Part of me is tempted to do this for my other series going forward as like a capstone. So now let me answer your deep philosophical questions.
Top 3 Peanuts characters based on Riz.
Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Franklin. If you've watched all my other Peanuts videos, I don't need to elaborate.
I guess I'll ask what your favorite piece of Peanuts media / thing is outside of the films and TV specials?
Well, there's a comic strip that's pretty good. Actually, someone sent me a photo of like a shirt of Snoopy working as like an NSA codebreaker. That one kind of tickled me. It's like the joke of having your personal FBI agent monitoring you, except it's fucking Snoopy for some reason.
Curious what your favorite joke / bit from those Fallout videos is?
I don't know if it's my favorite joke, but I really struggled with how I was going to do the Brotherhood of Steel bit in the New Vegas video. The way I originally had it was just talking to the overseer and silently doing the assigned tasks, and it just killed the pacing. It really only came together in the edit. Considering how much grief it gave me, I was really happy with how it came out, so I don't know if it's my favorite joke, but it's probably my most gratifying edit. It was the same with the end of the Fallout 4 video where I blew up the Institute with a dad joke. I had no idea how I was going to end that one until I started editing that.
What is your favorite game?
Chess? Easy to learn, hard to master. The devs did a great job with balancing. The last update where they added en passant was bullshit though. Also, no one ever wants to play this with me, but I fucking love Acquire. One guy watching this is gonna go out and buy that because I said that, and then he's gonna go, Big Beak, what the fuck? In terms of favorite video games, I'm on record as saying it could be Fallout 4. I do think Fallout is my favorite game franchise. I just really love the world of Fallout. I think it's a great setting. Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably the, quote, best game I've played, but I don't know if it's my favorite. This one's kind of a hack gamer opinion, but my favorite story-driven game is probably The Witcher 3. I really do want to do a Witcher series eventually. The only problem is the first game is actually ass. Like, it's extremely impressive how far CDPR has come as a studio.
How long does it take to script a video?
Scripting is honestly a pain in the ass and probably the longest part of the production cycle. I've never timed it, but I started writing the Fallout 3 video in November of 2022, and I didn't record it until May 2023. I find it very hard to just pick up where I leave off, so every time I work on the script, I almost always start writing sessions by reading it from the top and making edits as I go, which is part of the reason it takes so long, but I guess it keeps it cohesive. All that said, I really love writing. If I knew anything about coding, I probably would have wanted to be a game writer.
I'd like to know more about your editing and pacing style, inspirations, techniques, things you've learned, etc. Do you plan everything out or is some of it improvised?
I fucking suck at improvisation. Even this is scripted to shit. That's also why I hate live streaming. Some of my friends have told me they find it relaxing, and that honestly makes me think they're psychopaths. That said, if something isn't working how I want, or if I think of a natural extension while I'm recording, I'll try to add it or change it. But like those Fallout bits I mentioned, the actual on-the-fly decision making is done in the editing. After I record it, I take the whole thing into Premiere Pro and get the audio portion ready. This is where I put in those J-cuts that create that relentless pacing. Then I just put in the clips I want to use and add the text and motion graphics. To be honest, I don't really consider myself a very skilled editor. I'm really just screwing around most of the time. It's not very scientific. The main difference between how I edit now and how I edited like 3 years ago is I give myself a lot more time and space to play around and explore the software. Also, I'm trying to be better about learning keyboard shortcuts. Maybe if anyone cares, I'll like live stream an editing session or something and people can watch me fumble around like a monkey with a typewriter.
Are your videos intentionally a more calm and slowed down version of Maxor videos, or am I just crazy?
I know everyone jokes about me being medicated Maxor in the comments, but I identify as a discount Killian experience. Even the name, Big Beak Entertainment, is just me trying to emulate him in the shallowest way possible. In terms of editing, I think my origin story is probably those James Bond videos. I sat on those for like months while I got the whole thing ready, and I just naturally kept editing them, and I think they still hold up. I'm really proud of that series. But it wasn't until I saw a Maxor video that I realized people would actually be willing to watch a video that was just relentless. I never wanted to make anything as merciless as Maxor does, but my videos not being as crazy was more like a decision made by my PC. It was writing me fucking suicide notes when I was putting together the Fallout 4 video. That being said, I owe a lot of my success to Maxor, but honestly, most of my success is probably just because I made this thumbnail, which, as Big Beak Entertainment scholars know, had its roots in the original Peanuts video thumbnail. But all that being said, the editing is also just kind of flavor to me. I try to put a lot more value and emphasis on the scripting. Like, if the script is bad, flashy editing isn't going to save the video. I don't think my Night in the Woods video is bad because it's not edited enough. I think it's because the script was weak.
What made you want to make YouTube videos?
The school I went to made me pay $600 a year for an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription I never used. So Spite, I guess?
2 questions. Are you a furry? How long have you been running from the IRS?
No, and I literally filed an amendment because I forgot to declare $10 of income one year. I'm not trying to fuck around with the IRS. I'm not rich enough to get away with it.
Which game did you finish and realize could have been a 90-minute movie? Bonus question, which game could have been a DCOM?
Video games tend to be a lot longer than movies, but I think The Last of Us should have been a movie instead of a TV show. There's a lot you could cut there, and I think it flows way better in a traditional 3-act structure, and it already is a DCOM, but that's a video for another time. DCOMs, or Disney Channel original movies, tend to be broadly bland but serviceable, with just like 1 or 2 confounding elements that just make you go, what the fuck were they thinking? And that also perfectly describes Mass Effect Andromeda. I also think that Night in the Woods would make a great DCOM, except that one would actually be filmable.
What are your favorite smaller YouTube channels?
Oh boy, buckle up for this one. I love all the channels I've worked with. I love Ottawa Welshman, I love Tarkus Archosaur, I love Strat Gaming, I love Mellow Scott if he ever starts posting again. Ottawa Welshman in particular has been on a roll with his Trying to Master series. His Civ 6 video is a 10 out of 10. The chess video is also great, but because he had some false copyright issues with the licensed music, it got delisted for like 2 weeks, which just kind of fucked it. I also owe a lot of my success to these guys. It was between my Mass Effect videos and the Last of Us videos when we actually started talking, and it was really helpful to have these guys as a sounding board for my stupid ideas. I love Musicals with Cheese. That's a podcast, but they have a YouTube channel, so I think that counts. They've had me on a few episodes, and it's always a great time. I think the hardest I've ever laughed is recording the School of Rock episode, but they had to cut a lot of it because it was, let's just say it was too hot for YouTube. Boof Can is very good, Kinda Brad at This is very good, but statistically, if you watch my videos, you already watch theirs. Zephyr is a channel I've been subscribed to for years. Every now and then, this dude just comes out of nowhere and posts an absolute banger of a video, then vanishes for like a year. It's like Halley's Comet coming around. Blue Bidyu Game. I hate when people call channels underrated, even when they called my channel underrated, because they almost never are. Usually there's some skill issue. Blue Bidyu Game is actually underrated. He makes videos on every game in the PS1 library, and I can hear your eyes rolling like, oh, Big Beak, you really care about the PS1 library? That's the thing, I couldn't give 2 shits, but his videos actually make me care. Every video this guy makes is a well-researched 10 out of 10 masterpiece. He's like a medieval monk chronicling ancient Greek texts. I think the only reason he's not as big as he should be is because the search volume for the PS1 library is kind of low. I'd recommend his Southern Eyes video or his A-Train video if you really want to get a taste of what level he's on. They're also really great to listen to while working. His videos are basically the soundtrack I edited the Fallout 3 video to. Also, like, give these channels a shot, but don't just subscribe to them and then never actually watch their videos. That's not helpful.
Have you ever thought of the perfect story for a video game and making something that makes the young kids who will play it think about their decisions in life, etc.? If yes, give me a taste.
Well, I'm pretty sure every Fallout fan has written a Fallout game in their head at some point, which is probably the reason the fan base is so fastidious, since nothing is ever going to beat the game they made up in their heads. My Fallout game is set in the Outer Banks. I think the Ferryman in Fallout 3 refer to it as the Broken Banks. I just like that location for a Fallout game. You have all these lighthouses that were rated as Fallout shelters. It's already a barren, windswept landscape. You have cool features like the canal system or the Great Dismal Swamp, but I don't work at Bethesda, so there's not much point in ruminating on it. Tim Kane's got a few videos on game development, and basically he says it doesn't matter how good the idea in your head is, everybody's got good ideas in their head. What matters is your ability to actually execute them, and I do not have the technical skills to actually make a video game.
Do you have any other series like your James Bond series planned?
Yeah?
What TV series do you want to see get a reboot and why?
Any show I can think of is already getting rebooted, but Columbo.
Please make a video on the Fallout TV show.
You know, that's actually not a bad idea, and they've already sent me a copyright strike. Maybe I'll do it on Patreon later, where the long arm of YouTube's shitty content ID system can't touch me.
Will you make a video on Fallout 76?
I already did, remember? I also don't even know what I would do for that if I wanted to go back. I thought about doing a live stream, but I hate streaming so much that Todd would have to kidnap my family to make me do it.
When are the videos for Fallout 5 through 75?
After the Elder Scrolls 6 releases. You know, eventually.
Why haven't you done a video on Fallout 1 and 2?
I just don't even know what they would look like, and I kinda don't think they would end up being very good. Like, I'd have to replace all the text, which was a real pain in the ass when I did it for the Night in the Woods video, and I really don't want to do that again. I'm not even sure if I could make a video on Fallout 2 in my style. Maybe one day I'll play them again for the channel, but right now I'm happy to leave the Fallout series where it is.
What are some movies you enjoy and recommend?
Perfect opportunity to plug my Letterboxd account.
Why toucans?
I wanted it to match my old Steam profile because I'm a fucking moron and apparently I wanted a bunch of friend requests from people I don't know. But when I was making that account, I had to pick a photo and I just used the stock image of a toucan that came on every Windows Vista PC. I think it worked out. Like, toucans are a fucking ridiculous looking bird. I mean, look at this thing. If this isn't the embodiment of my channel, I don't know what is. Nobody ever asked this question, but one thing I always liked hearing as a small YouTuber was advice from other YouTubers. So in case any of them are watching,
what is the best YouTube advice you've ever heard?
I heard this from Quentin Reviews, who had heard it from somebody else he couldn't remember, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, doing YouTube means throwing everything you can at the wall for potentially years, and getting absolutely nowhere. But when something sticks, you drop everything, and do that 5 more times. What that means to me is that YouTube is an iterative process. Your videos should feel like an extension of the previous ones, and that's what people mean when they say the algorithm values consistency. It doesn't mean posting every week, it means creating an expectation and then living up to it, or surpassing it if you can. You should build on whatever successes you've had and learn from all the failures you can. And that's exactly what I did with the Fallout series. And that's what I did with the Peanuts series. Hopefully the next series sticks as well. Thanks to all 100,000 of you for subscribing. All of your names should be on that plaque. But, you know, they really wouldn't fit, so instead I'll just have my name put on it. I'm looking forward to doing this next time when I hit 1 million subscribers in 60 years. Okay, so this kid's definitely dead, and I'll tell you why. And if Snoopy just pulls him to the ground, he's getting back up immediately, right? And I don't think Snoopy has the weight to knock a kid out or drag him really far away. The only thing I can, like, that kid is fucking dead. This kid's name is Charlotte Braun for how stone cold dead they are.